In school, we aren't taught how to listen to ourselves, how to trust our intuition, how to honor our gut feelings. In school, we aren't taught the value of honoring your inner voice, of having the courage to venture off the beaten path, to live authentically. In school, we're taught how to be our best selves, but not our most authentic selves. We're taught to be a great performer, but not true to who we are. I dropped out of college after 1 year, and it was one of the best decisions I ever made. But to me, it was rather simple. I never doubted or second-guessed that choice. But so many of us make choices based on what our parents' expectations are of us. Or we do things because society tells us that's what you're supposed to do. But college isn't for everyone. I think it's really important to data collect, to try different skill sets, to explore many different careers, to get out in the world and try things, to experiment and play until you find the right fit for you. And that can really be sped up when you're out there in the world. Rather than go to college, this is what I did instead. One day in university, I skipped class and I printed out resumes and I walked miles and miles all over Midtown Manhattan in New York City, knocking on doors, agents, casting directors, theaters, until finally someone came out of an off-Broadway theater and offered me a job working behind the scenes. I worked at an off-Broadway theater for several years. I got to understand what it was like to work at a theater. I learned about the casting process and what it was like to cast an off-Broadway show that eventually went to Broadway years later. Because of my connections with that theater, I was eventually able to get an audition for an off-Broadway play that was at that theater. And I was able to get my first off-Broadway New York acting credit. And it was all because I went out there and I knocked on doors. I also ended up working for a little while at a famous talent agency, and I took acting jobs, and I then had a photography business where I learned about entrepreneurship and how to serve clients as a business owner. I learned how to build websites, how to run my own business, and how to provide a service to clients in the best way possible so that I could learn what it was like to be a business owner. And it was all through this trial and error. That was how I learned. I learned the most about myself, about what I wanted out of life, out of my career. And I learned so much about people because I went out there in the real world and I tried. I failed and I tried and I failed again. But it was that trying that led me to discover who I was. And you know what all of that gave me? Courage. Courage to try and fail. That real world experience gave me a resilience that's been the foundation of my life, that's helped me bounce back from setbacks really quickly, to bounce back when insecurity comes up or failure arises. I don't think this is something that I could have learned in college.
One of the things that I wish I knew back then was to design my lifestyle first and then work backwards from there. How you spend your time is how you spend your life. And we spend 1/3 of our lives working in our jobs. And so if you can begin with the end in mind, as Stephen Covey talks about, where you design your life and work backwards. Essentially, you want to imagine your ideal life. Imagine how you'd like to spend your time in your life, your days in your life, and then start designing a career that supports that. Your time is limited and your days matter, so it's really essential to pick a job that you actually enjoy. Doesn't mean you have to be passionate about it. You know, I think a lot of people throw this word passionate around, like you have to be passionate about your job or your career. I don't really think you need to be passionate about your work, but I do think you need to enjoy it. I'm making this video because I wish that there were more people back when I was in college that were supportive of leaving school or not going to college. I graduated high school and enrolled in university in 2012, and back then it was very taboo to drop out of school. I remember I got so much flack from family members. I had family disown me and completely leave my life. And I also remember just a lot of peer discouragement. People at my university, at my school, thinking it was kind of crazy that I dropped out. You know, the one thing that I have that has always supported me in my life is my sense of self-trust. And I've always relied on my own self for my guidance, my wisdom, and the answers that are true for me. I've never relied on other people to give me the wisdom or knowledge. I've always listened to myself. And I think this comes from years and years of journaling and asking questions to my inner voice, having a relationship with God and my intuition through my journal. And I talk about this in my other videos about journaling. I'll include those videos here if you'd like to watch it. But my ability to self-trust, my ability to self-regulate my emotions by connecting with my inner voice is the thing that's really supported me the most in life. If I could say anything to my 18-year-old self, I would not stigmatize community college. I think there's still a lot of stigma around community college and going to community college. And I think it's just really silly. So community college, I mean, that's something that I really wish I really looked into more seriously back then. I'm 29 now, and I'm getting ready to approach my 30s. And something that I've always known is that I eventually do want to go back to school. But I'll be going back to school when I have clarity. The idea of going to school and deciding this is my major, this is the chosen profession that I'm going to go in for the rest of my life, that just seems crazy to me. The fact that we force these massive decisions on young people at 18, 19 years old is just ludicrous to me. It does not make any sense. And I just find such beauty in going back to school and as an adult, and that's something that I plan to do someday. Having these experiences in the real world toughened my character. It built my strength because I didn't have support. I didn't have a family that could support me, or a cushy paycheck, or a fallback plan in case something didn't work out. I had to make do with what I had. And because of that, I had nothing to lose. That gave me a confidence that I have now to this day. Those early life experiences of being 19 years old in New York is the foundation of who I am now. I read so many books, and I tried so many different tools, and I took tons of classes, both in person and online, until I found the things I really loved. But I had to experiment. You know, someday in my 30s, I'd love to go back to college because I love learning. That was never the reason why I dropped out of school. I love knowledge and learning and reading and research and writing essays. But I'm gonna go when the time is right, when tuition is either free or close to it, like universities here in Europe. There are so many universities in Europe that Americans can go to where the tuition's free and programs are taught entirely in English. There are alternatives, there are different possibilities. You don't have to go into debt to get a degree. If I'm going to go back to college, I'm going to receive a bachelor's degree that doesn't leave me struggling with student debt for 10, 20 years of my life. That just isn't worth it to me. I'd rather have freedom
freedom of choice, the freedom to make decisions in my life that are entirely heart-led, because I know that student debt would limit me. It would cause me to fear taking chances, to not follow my heart, to feel like I have to get a day job in order to pay that debt off. There are other ways to do college. You don't have to follow the crowd. You don't have to walk the path that's been laid out before you by your peers, your parents, your teachers, your guidance counselors. Tune yourself within. There are so many paths, so many alternative ways to having a successful, financially abundant, and joyful life. College is not the only way. And for some of you, you might want to go to college right after high school. I want to encourage you to trust yourself, to listen to your body. When your ears perk up, when your back straightens, when you feel a flutter of excitement in your stomach, pay attention. Honor that. And for me, that was out there in the real world. That was leaving college. Kindred spirit, I don't want you to be afraid of failure. I don't want you to fear taking chances in your life, because putting yourself out there is the quickest way to grow.